Hello! I'm so excited that you're here because I've got an amazing conversation to share with you. It is a chat that I had with my good friend Cathy Heller. So Cathy is the creator of the podcast Don't Keep Your Day Job, which is amazing. You should check it out if you haven't already. And she's just such an inspirational person. Like, she just drops so much value every time I talk to her. And so we had this great conversation. We talked about our journeys, building our businesses. I talked about how I've created my membership, the steps I've taken, the things I've done. We just kind of had a really great chat about business in general, how we've got to where we are. And I really hope that you find it so inspiring. There's so many nuggets. So definitely get a pad and a pad and a pen so that you can really make some notes of these highlights. But for now, enjoy this episode.
You are watching the She Means Business show with me, Carrie Green. I'm the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association and the author of the best-selling book, She Means Business. And every single week, I'm going to be talking with you about how you can turn your ideas into a wildly successful business and actually live the life of your dreams. You can do this, and I'm so excited to show you how. So let's get started.
So Carrie is a dear friend of mine, and I'm so impressed with her. She was going to be a lawyer and then was like noodling around online and thinking about women and empowering women and bringing women together. And she just started this membership, and oh my gosh, like she's had thousands and thousands of people in this with her now. For how many years have you done this?
The membership's been going for 7 years.
7 years.
Insane.
And you figured it out as you went, You just figured it out. So what do you have to say about how possible or what you learned about what you can do when you just decide to start something?
Oh my gosh. I think the biggest thing that I have learned, because I actually started, my first business was phone unlocking. Yeah, phone unlocking. So random. And do you know what I realize and I see is that so many people hold themselves back because they think they need to have the one idea. And so we're looking for this all singing, all dancing, this idea that fills us up with so much magic and joy, and it's too much. It's like trying to find it's like trying to find the perfect partner or something. It's like everyone's got flaws.
Right.
There's nothing perfect.
That is a really good analogy. Yes. Yes.
And so for me, it was just I realized that once you give yourself permission to just do something, then you allow the journey to unfold. And it's like that Rumi says, when you begin to walk on the way appears. And it's just so true. It's like once you start walking on your way towards living the life of your dreams, even if you don't know what that bloody means, just this idea that you want to do it changes everything. And so for me, it's that thinking and just being willing to take that step.
Yep.
Has just changed my life and helped me to explore the possibilities. And in exploring the possibilities, I've been able to create so much success, which is just mind-blowing, really.
It's blowing. I mean,
insane, isn't it?
You make millions of dollars doing something that you love, that you created because you wanted. You were like, wouldn't it be cool if I could bring women together and we could help each other and network and all of this stuff? What about the imposter syndrome that everybody deals with? Because I'm sure that there was a moment when you were starting this where you were like, who am I to start this? Why would they want to pay me for this, right? And how did you get over that?
Oh my gosh. So I had imposter syndrome for 3 years before starting the Female Entrepreneur Association. I sat on it for 3 years, and it's it became more and more painful to ignore myself. And I remember getting heart palpitations and just so much anxiety because I had this idea knocking at me and I was just refusing to acknowledge it. And I was doing everything but acknowledging it. And it was all because I was just so embarrassed about what people would think of me and who am I to do this. And I felt like I had to be something I wasn't in order to be able to hit the go button on my dreams. And I felt like I needed qualifications, and I just felt like I wasn't good enough. And I think even like last year for me, I recognized that that still haunts me, this feeling that I'm not good enough. Even like now, I really have to work on myself when I've got new ideas, because this feeling of like not being good enough comes back. And I think for so many of us, we have this imposter syndrome and this sense that like we're not good enough, we need more qualifications. And it's crazy how much that can stop us. But even when I started FEA, it took me 2 years to have the courage to even sell a single thing, because again, I had imposter syndrome. It was one thing to create a free platform, but it was another thing to actually ask for money, because again, it was this idea of like, who am I to do this? And like, it just freaked me out. And I remember getting to the point where I'd completely run out of money, and I felt like a bit of a fraud, because I was running the Female Entrepreneur Association, but here I am, and I've run out of money because I want to do this thing and I want to help all these people to connect and come together, but I'm too afraid to charge for it. And I remember winning an award, and I was up against like 25 or 26 incredible entrepreneurs, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've won, and I'm like broke. And it got to Christmas and I had no money to buy Christmas presents for my family, and I just felt like, what the hell am I doing? Like an idiot. And I remember thinking, I have to get over this. Like I can't keep holding myself back. And so I remember sitting down and I learned how to create guided visualizations, because a mentor of mine said the most powerful voice you can ever listen to is your own. Like you need to start changing the way you're thinking and changing the what you believe in and what you believe is possible. And I remember doing a few small things, and within a week, this is for real, within a week, I was hosting a joint venture webinar with Amy Porterfield, and I made personally like over $2,000 in 1 hour, and was just like, and that was on the 20th of December. And it's insane, like how quickly things can happen when we get out of our own way, like mind blowing. So
things about this, because I was actually just with Amy Porterfield and Laura Belgrade. We were doing a room yesterday in Clubhouse, and we were having this conversation, and it's interesting how we all look at it a little bit differently. But what I shared, I want to share it here, because I think it's an important point. It took me a long time to realize this, but the imposter syndrome is an illusion for two reasons. Number one, when somebody is paying for something, it's not what we think. It's not about convincing them and proving to them that we're valuable, that we're the best for it. Oftentimes people are like, know your worth. And it's like, well, that's a hard thing for all of us, actually. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. But what I've come to realize is that when you're selling something, whether it's a Chanel bag or a course or a massage, whatever you're selling, the story you're telling is about them seeing how valuable they are, because they're investing in themselves. And so the person who wants to spend more money on the Chanel bag, who would rather go to Whole Foods and spend $20 more on the salmon because it's organic, is telling a story to themselves about themselves, right? It's about themselves. So it's like, where do you need to rise, right? To teach them, to help them choose in to the thing that shows them, oh my gosh, I am investing because I see myself as this, right? And so this is what people have to get, is that it's like Tai Chi, or whatever. Not that I've done Tai Chi, but it's all this illusion, because what you're really doing is it's an energetic exchange, right? So even this idea of like, who am I to do this? It's not us who's doing it. It's just like what your friend said to you, your own voice. Like when I was talking to Martha Beck, and I've now gotten to know her a little bit pretty well. She's been on the show a couple of times, and I'm like, what did it feel like to coach Oprah, right? Like you were her coach, and that's big shoes to fill. And she's like, the first time I showed up, I passed out. I literally, she said, passed out. And then I realized I'm passing out because I'm again confused. Like I have to have an answer for her. No, she said, the job of a coach, my job was to see the divinity in her, was to hold space so that she could see her own truth, so that she could come back to her compass, right? So it's like, I say to people when they sign up for me to do this, which I adore this program. I'm so grateful that this like kind of came as like a divine download. But people are like, can you guarantee that this program will give me success? I go, absolutely not. I go, this program is designed to help you show up and take action, to help you come and take out from within you all the magic that is there. And I do believe that I have the ability to facilitate holding that kind of space to help you step into your magic. But then you're going to see how much divinity is just inside of you, because it's inside of all of us, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the thing where it's like, we don't have to do it. If you ask Tom Petty or Picasso or any artist, any author, how did you paint that? How did you write that song? How did you? They'll say, I don't know. I was just in the flow state. Like it just came, right? Like it's God's music. It's whatever you want to call it. He, she, creator, spirit, universe. Like there is a magical force, right? That we can all tap into. And we don't have to walk on our knees for 1,000 miles in the desert, as Mary Oliver says. It's just like, we're never going to be the best. We're never going to be enough if we're trying to be it. Like that's all. It's like, what if it's just about like realizing that what do people really need most? Like they need a safe space. They want to feel like they're enough. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. They want empathy. And when we do that, which you do really well, Carrie, you have no like affect about you. You're lovely and loving and sweet and generous. It's like, it's more than enough, right? And because you are present, right? That's what people want, is our presence, you know? And they want our presence more than our PowerPoint slides, right?
Yeah.
So it's
So
our
true.
presence, not what we're presenting. It's our presence with people. And we do know things, and we do have the ability to have the brilliant stuff flow out of us. It just will if we just get out of our way. You know what I'm saying? It's just...
Yes, but you are just so incredible though at getting that out of people. I think I remember when I was listening to one of your free challenges that you did last year, and you talk about this idea of like coming home to yourself, and like and you just have such a way, like even in the conversations that we've had and the groups that you know that we've been in, like you have a special gift for helping people to see like what's really in their way and how to actually move past it and feel empowered to actually show up for themselves, show up for their dreams, and like take those little steps. Like I think actually one of the biggest reasons why I started to recognize that I had this hold up around not feeling good enough was actually through a conversation that we had last year in like a group chat. And I don't know, you have this magical way of like really helping people to see the way. It's really special.
Nice of you to say that, but I really think that you can do that too. Like I see you do it. You just did that for me just now. You just did that. I think we just don't trust ourselves somehow.
So true.
You know, also when you were growing up, did you get really good grades?
No, quite the opposite, which is just
Me too.
part of me where it stems from, I think. I was like kicked out of the school because I wasn't good enough. And then I failed the entrance exam to the school that my sister and two brothers went to. So I was the one kid that traveled like a far away to go to a school by myself.
I had the same story. But what I realized so often is that the race that everybody was racing is like, it wasn't a race I even wanted to win. You know? It was like, and I've had that feeling so many times where like, I remember meeting with like the head of a record label when I was in the music business, and I was working towards like getting a record deal. And I had that a couple times, and I would walk in and feel like anxious. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? How's it going to go? And then I was like, what race am I trying to win? Like, I'm just going to be myself. And then I would wind up like not trying to really say anything, like having no agenda, and then asking the person like maybe a question about something that actually seemed interesting in the moment. We'd have these conversations about like, you know, one of them told me like what's going on with his kid, and he was like struggling with drugs, and we had this like big heart to heart. And I just held space for this guy. And next thing I know, he's like, thank you so much. Like, it's so sweet how much you cared. I was like, of course. Like, I just feel like so much is not happening the way it should because we're all thinking that so much is expected of us, that so much is needed from us. And it's really just us that's needed, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so powerful. Like, people just don't really get a chance to feel heard or share because no one's really making the space, you know? You can tell, like, really is listening, and when someone's really listening with like their agenda or what they're projecting or whatever. And I don't know, I just think part of the reason I wanted you to pop on is because A, I love seeing you, and B, I've been really loving the idea for people to start memberships of all kinds, especially now with so much social distancing. And I wanted you to speak to it a little bit because I think that what people want more than a product right now is an experience, is connection. Can you just talk a little bit about your membership and how you got it off the ground and why you think memberships can work?
Yeah, so I mean, I love memberships. I think for me, especially like over like the past couple of years, so in the end of 2018, I had my first child, Casey, and life obviously changed, which I don't know if I was prepared for. And the you know, since then, I had Marley, my daughter, in August last year, and it's just been like, it has been a struggle to figure out. I used to work all hours of the day before Casey came along, and then having a child, and then like my priorities changing. And if it wasn't for having a membership, I don't know whether the business would be what it is still. Because of the membership, recurring revenue continued to come in every month. And looking back now, I remember I worked this out a while ago, but when Casey was 3 months old, I didn't recognize it at the time, but we'd had one of our most successful financial months. And I was on maternity leave. Like, I wasn't even there. And it's crazy. So yeah, when I started the membership in 2013, I just wanted to have like an inner circle, an inner space where I could bring people together. Because essentially with a membership, like when people are paying to be part of something, people typically tend to show up in a different way, and they truly want to be part of it. They're committed to being part of that space. And then what you find is that you cultivate a group of essentially like super fans. They're the people that want to be around you. They want to connect with you. They want to connect with all the other people in the group because you're all like-minded. You're on the same wavelength. And I just really wanted to facilitate that space for them, and to just curate content that would be really helpful for them in growing their businesses. And so it has evolved since starting it in 2013 by myself, not having a clue what I was doing. I remember in that first year, I managed to get to like 1,000 members was my goal, and I did it. It was like blood, sweat and tears to try and figure out how to get to 1,000 members. And I was literally doing all the things myself. Like, I was the customer support, I was the content creator, I was the marketer. I don't know how I didn't go insane, if I'm being honest. And then the next year, changing it out to like a launch model where instead of it being open all the time, I was doing like these launches, helped me to triple the size of the membership. So we went to 3,000 members, and then I've grown it to over 5,000 members. And it's just been wild to think that like I started from zero, no clue what I was doing, with just this idea and this dream in my head, this vision. And just little step by little step by little step, I started to figure out how I could grow it and how I could turn it into something really successful. And every single one of us has the ability to do this. I think sometimes it's hard because now people look at me and think, well, you've got a membership and it's got 5,000 members and it's really successful. But what people don't remember or realize is that I also started out at nothing, like just trying to figure it out. And I think that goes back to the point at the beginning of like, if we just give ourselves permission to get started with a vision and a mission and a desire, like that desire can take us so far if we open ourselves up to just going into that space. what we make ourselves available for. And I think for me, like that's such a big thing for me this year. Like my word of the year is expansive. I just want to expand into like spaces that, you know, help me to up level and experience new things. Like so much is available to all of us, and I just think so often we don't even recognize that. And like the abundance available, the success available, the connections available, the support available, we're not utilizing it, we're not tapping into it, and it's just like, what are we doing? So like,
Yeah, well, we really live the same day mostly, you know, on repeat, because 95 what we think is literally hardwired. 95% of our, which means 95% of our feelings, which means it is Groundhog Day. It is a memorized set of thoughts and feelings over and over again, over and over again. And so there's a limit to like how happy we become. And then we go, oh, but this is like my guilt or my shame or my self-doubt. This is familiar. And then we go back to that. And then that limits, right, all the possibilities of things that other people might be seeing. Like no two people are living in the same reality because we have a different set of thoughts and feelings. Therefore, we create a different personal reality of what's possible and all of that. But there's so much. Like if you looked outside of our own little subjective view of in the realm of possible, in the quantum field, right? So much more is here. And so when we can just expand even 1% or 2%, oh my God, it's like God, the universe is just waiting for like a little crack in what you're used to, that routine limitation, so it can like shine something new and go, what about this, right? And at first it feels so scary and so uncomfortable because so much of what we believe and what we think, we've continued to think it and believe it because we think it's protecting us in some way. Like, don't do it this way, and oh my gosh, and if I do this, I'll fail, or if I do this, people won't like me, or whatever. We have all this stuff. It's so subconscious, so subconscious. Yeah. But you did start this, and I'm wondering, I want to ask the audience, everybody who's listening, hi, how many of you, just type a 1 if you've ever wanted to start a membership? I'm just curious. Let us know. And then, Carrie, what would you say to someone who's like, well, how could I start a membership? Like, for instance, let's say they want to start a membership about vegan cooking, or they want to start a membership about mindful parenting, or whatever it is. I think, oh good, there's some people here who are saying, yeah, I want to do that. So like, I think people think, oh no, I have to be a PhD, I have to be an expert. Like, you were a girl who like was going to be a lawyer, who then, you know, switched and started telling people like, maybe we can start businesses, and then you started a business, and now you're making millions of dollars, like living your nice life with your kids. What would be the first thing you would say to someone if they're like, I can't start a membership because it would require me to be an expert?
Literally just get one piece of paper and sit down. Like if you've already got your topic, and if you haven't got your topic, literally sit down and firstly with a piece of paper and just get yourself to think of 10 ways you can be of service to people, like 10 things that you can do well. And it could be random, like for example, I can play the piano. Am I ever going to start a membership on how to learn the piano? Probably not. But nevertheless, like this is about like getting things flowing. So just sitting down and doing those simple exercises are powerful because we simply don't do them, and so we don't actually crack ourselves open because we're never digging for it. So sitting down to look at like, what do you love, what lights you up, what are you good at, what are your skill sets? Just get it all out on paper first, and then like if you have identified an area that you think would be an amazing, like what, also asking yourself, what would you love to be part of? Like when I started FEA, like what my vision was for women in business didn't exist, not in the way I saw it. And I love inspiration and personal development, and I like things to be pink, and I'm really girly, and that just didn't exist. So I wanted to create it. But even if there are things similar to what you want to create out there, no one is you. Like I remember Jada Selner once said, like, there's no such thing as a unique message, only unique messengers. And it really stuck with me because that means all of us have something to offer. So even thinking about what would you love to be part of, and create it. So like once you kind of got that idea, literally just get a piece of paper and have a think of like, how do you want it to be? Do you want to do live sessions and just show up and chat to people and maybe share something with them? Like, mostly in communities, people, like what you said, they just want you to be present. They just want you to show up. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have tons of content. Just keep it really simple. But you're thinking of like, why would these people want to come together to be part of this space, be part of this community? And just think, like, on a month-to-month basis, what are you going to show up? How are you going to show up for them? Like, what's that going to look like? And just thinking, like, what would you want? Like, what would you like? Like, what would be fun for you? And just starting there with something super simple. And then literally put a message out on social media, to your friends, to your family. Just put it out there to anyone and everyone. I'm thinking of doing this idea. This is why I'm thinking of doing it. This is what I envision for it. And I envision, this is like, talk about the transformation you envision for people, and why it's going to be fun, why it's going to be amazing. Like, what excites you about it, like why you've got this idea in the first place and how it's inspiring you. And then just put it out there and say, if you are interested in finding out more, then send me a message. Like, I'll send you a message. You don't even have to have anything set up to start gauging if people are interested in joining. It can literally be that simple.
I want to pull out two of the things that you said. First is when you said don't overwhelm, because they don't even need a ton of content, to keep it simple. So what would a general structure look like? Like, do you go live once a month? Is there like one thing each week, like of the 4 weeks? Like, what would be something that people could use as sort of like a guide? Like, okay, this is what I'm going to kind of try to do. This is what Carrie says is like a good skeleton.
So, for example, for when I started my membership site, I created a bundle of business love for every month, which basically was just, I'd take a topic, something I wanted to talk about, and I would create. So the first one, there was no videos. I literally just made a workbook on how to condition yourself for success. And I wrote out questions that people could ask themselves and exercises people could do to help them to become more successful. I love that topic. I love mindset, and I just wanted to share how I do things, like my process. So that's what I did. So I created this workbook, and then I did one live session where people could show up with me live, and I answered questions and we chatted about that topic. You can do such fun things now. For example, like with Zoom, one thing we do now is like virtual meetups, where you could get people together on Zoom and then do breakout rooms. And I mean, you could do all sorts. You could do co-working sessions. Like, it could be on a particular topic. You could be knitting and you all knit together and you come with your pattern or whatever. I don't know, I've never knitted in my life, but you could then hop from group to group, like checking in, giving help. Like, just people want the space. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. And there's so many tools now to make this so effective. Yeah. But yeah, so could be like a piece of content, or it could be a tip. It could be you going live sharing something like something like content based, and then a live where you're answering questions. You could facilitate hot seats, which you can do on Zoom. You can do it on so many different platforms where you pull people in so people can see and hear you. Even if those two things alone are powerful, and then adding on like a community aspect, so like a Facebook group or a place where people can come together, can hang out, get their questions answered, connect with each other. So even if you had those three things, that would be an amazing start. Yeah.
Amazing. It's a lot. And the other thing I wanted to pull out from what you just said, and by the way, that was so helpful. And if you guys have any questions about memberships or anything else, feel free to ask. I'll try to pay attention to questions. But another thing I was going to say is when you said there's no such thing as unique messages, but unique messengers. And the other aspect of this that I'm really getting is that we think like, why would I start this? Why would I open an ice cream shop? There's already 2 ice cream shops on the same block. And the idea is there isn't better, right? It's not like a linear thing where it's like, this one is better than this one. Better for who? It's subjective. right? So if you're Candace Nelson and you open Sprinkles Cupcakes, right? Well, Sprinkles Cupcakes are like $6 or $7 a cupcake, right? They look kind of like modern, like minimalist, like chic. Well, that's for the person who wants the story of like, I want a fancy, cool cupcake right now. And I want this experience of like, if I get a dozen of them and I put them out, people will know like she didn't get those from the grocery store. So that's for that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the person who wants to get the ones from the grocery store because they want the option to say, can you put Elmo on it? Can you put this on it for my, and they can be like just very generic and I can make them what I want. That's a totally different customer with a totally different need who wants a totally different story being told, right?
Yeah.
That, K-Swiss, I had a meeting with the president of K-Swiss. He's like one of the sweetest people. And this is when I was still in LA. And he was telling me how he was brought in to like revitalize this brand because they were like drowning. And he said, when I came in here, there was no powerful story that we were telling. And he said, and so I looked at all the other shoe brands and I said, okay, what is Nike really about? What is Adidas really about? So he's like, okay, so Nike, the story they're telling, it's not we make better sneakers, here's what they're made of. It's look at Michael Jordan. That's Nike. You want to be fierce? Do you want to climb the mountain? You want to take the hill? Tie these shoes on your feet every morning. Do it. That's what Nike is selling. Look at Adidas. Did they go that route? No. They're like, hey, do you like this hip hop artist? He wears Adidas. Hey, do you want to mix some beats in your bedrooms? They're wearing Adidas. Like totally different, right? Look at Vans. Vans is like, do you like to skateboard? Mm-hmm. Are you more like that kind of a person? Better for who? Better for who? So whatever you're creating, like what you just said, Carrie, which maybe you didn't even hear yourself say it, but you did. You were like, but I wanted a business, community that was also pink and girly. And at the time, that wasn't really a thing. And so I made that, right? So yeah, people could have gone into other memberships mm-hmm. for other business reasons. But it was like, oh, but this is the story that I'm telling. So like with me, it's like, could people take another program to help them figure out what they want to do and how to do it? Of course they can. But I'm telling the story about like, I'm doing it from a more spiritual standpoint. I'm doing it from a more like, let's get into wholeness. Let's be really in purpose. Let's really find a way to serve, right? And find impact. And so that's different than like listening to Grant Cardone. Like my podcast is different than Pat Flynn's. It doesn't make them bad at all. It's like, it's just a different message because it's for a different person.
Yeah.
Even, you know what I'm saying? And I think that everyone needs to get, you don't want everybody in your audience. And I don't know if you to this, Carrie, but like, you really don't. Like, we're constantly being told, like, get millions of followers, get the world to love you. Like, once you do that, you have no point of view. You're making something very vanilla. You stand for nothing. And you don't convert. It doesn't work as well. Do you want to speak to that? People don't seem to get that.
Yeah, it's so true. I think, just being yourself and attracting the audience, just standing, like what you said is so powerful. You have to stand for something so that other people want to stand with you. I think in my experience, that's like how you grow a really engaged, connected audience. But it's again, we so often don't give ourselves permission to do that because we're too afraid of what people might think if we're actually honest about like our perspective and our points of view. But I think we're starting to move more into a space where people are speaking up and using their voice and which is amazing. But sometimes it's just, I think you'll get this as well, because like what it's like to have an idea and to turn it into something incredibly successful. But like I know, and so much is possible for every single one of us. There was a stage where both of us were observers of other people who were creating massive amounts of success online, and we weren't one of them. And I remember looking at people doing webinars, and part of me thinking, are they lying about what they're doing? Like, is this really possible? And then thinking, I want that to be me, but I don't know how. To then it becoming me. So how did it become me, and how did it become you? And I always think like success is not an accident. It's something you have to create on purpose. And I think if every single one of us listening right now decided we were going to create success on purpose in our lives and started to get intentional about that and started to make ourselves available for success and abundance, everyone's life would radically change. It can't not radically change when you decide that that's what you're going to do. And if that's the only thing you take away from this, it will change your life. Like
100%.
I know that's what changed mine. And it's interesting because as well, like, I remember realizing that I wanted to be a millionaire, but that actually the thoughts I had about myself in my head about me being a millionaire, I just kind of thought, well, that's a joke. That's obviously never going to happen. And the things I would say about myself and think about myself and that energy I held for myself about the possibility of me becoming a millionaire, it just felt like a joke. It felt like I was a joke. And how many of us, think like how many, listening right now think, oh, well, it would be nice, but like not for me. Like it just feels too far-fetched. It feels too ridiculous. It feels like it would be a little bit of a joke for you to even think that would be possible. But when I recognized I was doing this, I thought, for as long as I keep believing this about myself, I won't become a millionaire. And I feel like it's insane, like the stories we tell ourselves and the ways we hold ourselves back when, just a simple change, like I could build a membership with 5,000 members. That's possible for me. And just accepting that it's possible and accepting that you can become a millionaire. You might not know how. You might not know how to build a successful membership site. You might not know how to become a millionaire, but knowing it's possible, I'm making myself available for it. I'm going to welcome it into my life. And I always do these like little mantra things where I just say, like, I just start to like say things and just see where it goes. But like, thank you so much for the ideas, the inspired ideas that I have received. Thank you so much for the support that arrives in my life. Thank you so much for showing me the way. Thank you so much for the guidance. Like I just say it over and over and over again. Like, I don't know, probably picked up from like Abraham Hicks or something, but like, it's so powerful. Like that when we start to say this and we start to tell ourselves that we can do it and that this is available for us and, this is our life and we live one of them, we might as well go all out to make it bloody amazing. We might as well believe that we can do it, because that is going to create so much more abundance and joy and contentment and accomplishment and happiness in our lives than believing that we can't do it. But we just don't get taught this stuff. Like at school, growing up, society keeps us playing so small. It's irritating. It's so irritating.
Yeah.
That's my rant.
I also just wanted to add that we make it seem so far away, like being a millionaire, like is like laughable, like that sounds ridiculous, right? And I want people to get that if you connected and you wound up having 1,000 clients, 1,000 customers, 1,000 people in your membership, 1,000 people who bought whatever experience that you're creating, 1,000, not 100,000, not 5 million, you would become a millionaire. Like we have put this thing on a pedestal and it's not really a big deal. I swear, it's actually harder. It is absolutely harder to work a 9-to-5 job and make $40,000 a year than it is to be a millionaire. Because when you're working a 9-to-5 job, that is grueling. You are on your feet, you are exhausted, you are like, next window, please. Those people are working their butts off, okay? That's hard work. And it's soul crushing and you're building somebody else's dream, okay? When you are making $1 million, what you are doing is you are finding a small group of the world to figure out, okay, this is some tension that this person has, and I'm going to alleviate it by offering this, whatever that is. And you are allowing a small group of people to pay you for what it is that you do. When I started to get this, my whole life, like it just blew up. I was a songwriter for 10 years and I started doing well. I started writing songs for TV and movies and Pretty Little Liars and Switched at Birth and Grey's Anatomy and Coke commercials and McDonald's and all that. And it was cool. But every time I wrote a song, I'd get like 50 grand or 60 grand, right? However, in order for me to make $300,000 a year, I had to write 40 songs a year that had to all be amazing. I had to fly to San Francisco, fly to Chicago, meet with the ad agencies. I had to build a widget, a new thing for every opportunity, most of which I didn't get. And then I would meet with Disney soundtracks. I would meet with Lionsgate. And then maybe 8 times a year, they would buy a song from me, right? They'd license a song. And I was like, oh my God, I'm crushing it. Meanwhile, I have to go make the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But I thought, this is amazing. I'm working so hard, right? I am writing. I am constantly inspired until after a decade, I was like, I don't know what else to write. Like I kind of was like running out of steam, right? A little bit. And I felt like there must be another way to do it, right? Than having to constantly make the next thing. And I realized, oh my God, and this goes back to memberships, there will always be, for everything that you make, okay, for everything that you make, whether it's a cup of coffee or it's your parenting skills, for everything you do, there'll be a line of people around the block who want to know how you do what you do. And so songwriters started saying to me, like, how have you built this business? This is nuts. Like, songwriters are starving and you are not starving, right? And I was featured in this Billboard magazine, which is actually right here. There was like this full page article about me in this issue. This was in 2013. I was just showing this to someone the other day. Here it is. Okay, here I am. Cute, right? There I am. And so I got all these emails from songwriters when they saw that article. Oh my God, teach me how to do that. Can you help me with my music? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I don't know how to, I don't teach people what to do. I don't even know if I could tell you what I did, right? And I decided to listen to the advice of a friend. And he was like, you need to pursue this. Like, the universe is slamming on your door, knocking. Like, try it. And I was like, oh my God. But it's so unknown. It's not familiar. Like, I work hard and then I make a few $100,000 a year. And that was that was what made sense to me. Like, anyway, here comes this person. She sends me a note. She's like, you should start an online class about songwriting. And I was like, what is an online class? Like, it sounded like Japanese. I'm like, I'm not doing that. That sounds like weirdos who are like sleazy. Anything online to me was like a guy sitting in front of his jet. And I was like, I would never be the guy sitting in front of the jet. But anyway, I decided, what do I have to lose? I was pregnant with Maddie, who's 4.5. So this is 4.5 years ago. And I go to do I did a webinar with not a single slide, Carrie. I didn't have a slide. I didn't know what I was doing. I was pregnant, hot. It was the summer. And all I did was like got on, talked to a bunch of songwriters for an hour. And I was like, this is my journey. This is what I've been doing. This is who I've written music for. This is what I realized about actually what makes you successful is not sending the thing you made, but asking the person what they need. And by the way, that is my entire paradigm shift for business. Business is about somebody else. Business is about empathy. Business is, what do you want me to make, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started meeting with these people. And anyway, at the end of the webinar, I made up an offer. I was like, I will work with you for a year. I would never do that today. Never. My program is 12 weeks. But I said, I'll work with you for a year. It's $997. And Carrie, that night, I made $147,000. It's easy math. Wow. 107 people decided to pay me $997.
Wow.
And I was like, that was so much easier than everything I have done, right? And so I start the class and I'm like, this is really fun, right? And then people started to get results from doing the things I was telling them to do. And one of my students was like, oh my God, I just got a song in a Starbucks ad. Cathy, I was literally never going to write music again. I just made $52,000. I don't even get what's happening. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I felt I had not felt for a long time, which was purpose. I was like, I'm actually helping other people because I had the courage to be like, maybe I do know something and inspire them. And then one of my students said, you should start a podcast. You should start a podcast. And I was like, a podcast? What's a podcast? And she's like, you should start a podcast because what you're teaching, 85% of it could be applied to anybody who has a dream, anyone who needs to start being creative, but like with like their smart, like business skills on and be resourceful. So I start this podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. totally on the slide, like on the side, not the slide, side. And I just did it. And 2 years later, I was like, oh my God, I got it. Now I'm making the program for all these people who have these passions and they don't know how to create business out of them. And we created this program made to do this. And I mean, it's, you can't even believe it, but like, do the math, right? The program it's $3,000. Okay. If you pay it out, it's a little more, it's $3,500. You don't need 4,000 people to take it. You're a millionaire. Like the songwriting class, by the way, I still do the songwriting class. At this point, it's 12 weeks. It's $3,000. Every time we run that class, we make almost $2 million. And that's just my songwriting stuff, right?
Wow.
I am not alone. I don't have some like superhero cape, right? It's literally, I'm telling you, it is easier to make $1 million than it is to make 40 grand. And so much of it is what you said. It's not, I'm trying to start a podcast. It's not, I'm trying to build a business. It's, I am. It is, I am. You don't say, I'm trying to do this. You say, I am doing this. I am doing this. Because we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. And when you just drop in to the knowing of like, this is my thing, this is my truth, people feel the vibration and then they will resonate with you there. And everyone's looking for someone to come and have confidence so that they can say like, okay, I can put my trust in you, right? And I do now I feel extremely confident, but I didn't when I started. I just had courage. I didn't have, the confidence came much later.
Yeah, so true. Your story is so amazing and so inspiring and just goes to show what is possible, and that like exactly what you said, when we're not superheroes. You're not a superhero. You're just a person who decided like, this is what I'm going to do. And I love the fact that you just said that the confidence came after, because I think so often people stop themselves because they don't feel confident about themselves, when really what we just need is that little like 30 seconds to be courageous. Like that's what we need, like just over and over again, like just like a little brief moment where we can just have enough courage to just do it. And then once you keep doing that, then you become confident and takes you magical places.
100%. The confidence doesn't come until, with anything, right? When you first had your son, your daughter, like, did you feel confident? You're like,
no.
Oh my God, why would God give me this child? I don't know what I'm doing. And then after a while, you're like, oh, and then the second one, you're like, all right, I got this, you know? Yeah. It takes time with anything, but yeah, it's about making a decision. Like, I'm not going to play small. And, you know, like when you said what you said before, and you said, I just made this, like, this shift where it was like, I am committing to this bigger, expansive life. And you said that made all the difference for me. What does that actually mean? What did that look like? What did you think? What did you do differently? How did that switch?
That's a really good question. I think it was then, so what started to happen was I started to become more aware of the opportunities that were presenting themselves. So I would take action on things that I wouldn't have taken action on before that shift. Like, to give you an example, when I had those money blocks and then I made that shift, no, I'm going to overcome my money blocks. I am going to be financially abundant. I want to welcome money into my life. And I made that guided visualization for myself. And I made this decision that, like, that's what I was going to do. And so I remember a few days later, an email coming through from Lewis Howes. I was just on his email list. I never opened his emails, but I just decided to open his email. And then I never clicked through, but I decided to click through. And then I was reading this blog and I scrolled down to the comments, never do that. And then I saw in the comments that Lewis Howes had replied to somebody with his email address. And I saw his email address right there. And this idea popped into my head of email him, just email him. So I copied his email, pasted it into my like inbox thing, email thing, and sent him his email saying, hey, I just love everything you're doing. Is there any way I can ever support you? Let me know. And I remember him emailing back when I drank far too much wine. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's replied. And like a few days later, I was having a conversation with his business partner, and then that's when we set the joint venture webinar up with Amy Porterfield like a few days later, because all like the three of them used to work together at the time. And for me, that's what it looks like when you say, you put your stake in the ground and you say, this is what I'm here for, this is what I'm available for. It's that you somewhere, like the universe, God, or whatever you want to call it, you say, like somehow you start to attract things because you are beginning to vibrate at a different level. You're opening yourself up, and what happens is the universe begins to deliver, and you spot things you perhaps wouldn't have spotted before, and you jump on things you perhaps wouldn't have, like opportunities, like all those things happened. And I truly believe it's because I started to open myself up to receiving what I needed, and so I was seeing it. And so that's the power for me of the universe. And it's like you were saying about before about like how you teach so much on like the spiritual side of things, because for me, I would never be where I am if I didn't utilize the power of the universe to help get me here. Like, I don't try and do the heavy lifting by myself. I surrender and I allow things in. I ask for guidance. I ask for inspired ideas to flow to me. I ask for support to arrive. Like, I ask for signs. So for example, like recently I really wanted some help with some stuff, and I was just like, please just show me the people who can help me. Like, who do I need to see? And then like a message comes through from somebody. I'm like, you are the perfect person. And it just happens.
Yeah.
But we just don't, so many of us aren't in the practice of that.
You're right. And part of it is because we've made a decision somewhere along the way. We have a belief that it has to be hard and it has to be complicated. And if we could just open up to it being right here, right now, it will come right to us. We don't even have to leave our house. Like literally, it will come right in. It'll be the most subtle, simple thing if you are on the frequency where you can spot it, where you can see it. And I just wanted to say, somebody asked a question, which I wanted to answer, which was, what did you do? She said, for those 12 weeks, did you, how did you fill those? Or is it just being a vessel? And I just wanted to say one little tactical thing, which is, I think, helpful. If you're going to create a workshop or a membership or a course, my 2 cents, what I have done over and over again, is again, the empathy. So lead with the empathy. So go to the one person you have in mind who might be a good candidate for the membership or the workshop or the course. And I would sit down, let's call this person Chelsea. Chelsea was actually a girl who was a songwriter who I asked this question to. And I said, could I have you come over and could I hear what would be your questions for me? Like, if you were looking at me, seeing that I had gotten this result and over again, right? You always know if somebody gets a result once, maybe lucky. If they get it over and over again, there's strategy there, right? There's something they're doing. So I said, what would you want me to share? Because I at that point, I really was just doing what I was doing. I didn't know how to break it down. And she said, well, I would want to know. And she starts asking me questions. I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't have even thought that you want to know that. So I start taking notes. And I say, okay, so you want to first know who I'm even sending it to. You want to know how I even found that person. You want to know what lyrics I'm writing. Oh, okay, interesting. And then I broke that into weekly bites. I was like, this is it. And same thing with if I'm doing a membership, same thing if I'm doing Made to Do This, same thing with the podcast. I'm like constantly polling, you'll see Instagram. I'm like posting like questions, or I send out Google forms. I'm like, what would you want more of? This kind of episode, that kind of episode. If you're in the membership, would you want more community stuff and networking, or do you want more education or whatever it is? Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, let me take this off.
The battery's dying. Let me see if this disconnects. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So yes, I like to call this co-creating. You don't have to create everything yourself. Like when I started the membership, before I started it, I put a survey out. I started asking people questions like, what would you like to see? Like I think so often we think we have to have all the answers, but we don't. Like what you said, it was my epiphany too, in the sense of becoming successful is about showing up and being of service to other people, because money is simply an exchange of value. So how are you showing up to be of value? And you can't just show up to be of value if you haven't understood like how to be of value to someone else. So like asking those questions and getting that feedback and listening is probably one of the most important skill sets we can all develop to help us to create more success. So yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. It's just, and it makes it easier. We don't have to figure it out by ourselves.
We don't have to figure it out by ourselves. And this is why I always say the difference between a hobby and a business is, if it's a business, the only thing different is someone's paying you. So, right? I mean, a hobby, there's no economics involved, right? If it's a business, there's money being exchanged. So that means somebody needs or wants it, which means let's keep our eyes on, what do you want? Do you want it red or green, hot or colder? You know, what do you want? And then it's something we don't have to overcomplicate. We don't have to overcomplicate it. There were two questions here. What happens if your audience doesn't engage and doesn't answer? I think you could ask specifically, like the person, right? Like when I started, I didn't just ask. If I would have posted on my Facebook group or in Instagram, which I didn't even have at the time, what do you want to learn from me about songwriting? Nobody would have answered. But I asked Chelsea specifically. And even when I was first starting the podcast, remember that when you post something to your audience, only 5% of your audience sees it. And it doesn't feel personal. It doesn't really feel like you care about my answer specifically if you're just posting something. After a while, once you have a certain relationship with your audience, a certain amount of them will always answer. And that is a decent barometer of probably what most people would want, because you can start to see patterns. But I like to ask specifically, and then think about if you're being asked to fill out a survey, or if you're being asked to rate something at the end of an experience, whether you're at the grocery store or whatever, they'll be like, we'll give you a coupon. Like, they want to make you feel like valued for your time and for your answer. If you went to Skippy Peanut Butter or Honda or Google, they're going to have focus groups, and they're going to pay you $200 for the hour to hear what you think. And they're going to gather a select group of people who are the right people. So you don't even want everybody at first, until your audience is at a certain place where you have made them feel seen and they do feel that you care and you've connected. Then I think you can start to have that traction. But I would ask a specific group of people.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I think what you said as well, like, even if you have a conversation with one person, that can be so powerful. Like, you don't need to have an audience of thousands and thousands of people to get a lot of information that can really help you to create something incredible.
Nope. Absolutely.
I think we just overcomplicate it and think that we need it to be bigger or more or better than it is.
100%. And that is why, you guys, I'm doing a 5-day challenge next week, which you should all be signed up for. It is free. Even if you're signing up just to watch how I do a 5-day challenge, because I'm obsessed with doing 5-day challenges, because I believe that sales is just about creating intimacy. It's in connection. And it's also about giving a lot of things away, because people don't buy information. I believe they buy implementation and connection. So I give a lot of value in the 5 days. You can go to cathyheller.com/yourturn, and you should sign up because it's free. It's going to be awesome. How many of you are coming? Tell me with a heart if you're coming. And
everyone should. It's going to be amazing.
Thanks. How best is one? You are always this girl, Margie Lopez. You are always the sweetest person. How in my DMs? How does one comment to our audience make them feel we care? What do you think, Carrie? You're so good at engaging people. What do you think about building an audience that feels like we care?
Just to literally genuinely care. I think as long as it's like real and authentic and like what you said before, people want to be seen, they want to be heard. And as long as we're seeing and hearing people and making that connection, then that's enough. You know, I mean, there's different levels and different things that you can do. I think, you know, for example, like now in the membership, if some members have like a really hard time, or like I remember someone once messaged me and something really awful had happened, so I sent her flowers. It's just a simple thing.
Oh,
Like, but it is like one simple thing that you can do that can make a big difference and put a smile on someone's face. Like I'm, you know, I always try and think, my dad always used to say that, or says this to me, I want, when you go into a room and you meet people, you want to brighten their day. You want to leave them and they, you know, they feel better because they met you and they had a conversation with you. And so for me, it's like being mindful of that, whether it's an online communication or whether it's an in-person communication. It's like, I know who I want to be and how, like, I want people to know that I am this, like, that I am nice and I'm kind and I'm we can have a real conversation. Like, that's so important to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like, who do you want to show up and be? And when you start thinking and getting intentional about it, it starts to come through. It's like when I wrote my book, I really wanted to feel like, I wanted people to feel like they were my best friend when they read it and they felt that connection to me. And it's insane how many people read the book and then be like, oh my God, I feel like you're my best friend. And I'm like, oh, it was intentional. So I think it's just being intentional about, who you want to be and like how you want to show up for people. And like also what makes you feel special? Like what do other people do for you that makes you feel special and you feel supported and makes you think, oh my God, I just love that person so much. They're just so amazing. Like, what is that? And just think like how you could like take inspiration from it. And, you know, it's, I'm sure you're doing it.
Jim Quick was on my podcast and he like a million mic drops, but one of the things he said was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, so powerful.
And so he said, you know, sometimes like you're talking to somebody who's like pitching you something or you're in some kind of meeting, but they don't remember your name or your wife's name, right? He goes, but if you meet someone at a party that you like, or you think someone's cute, or you read a book and you love it, like you'll remember the name of the person because you cared enough to remember it. And I was like, yeah. And you know why it's so good that we're saying this? Because I'm telling you guys, when you're first out, you actually have such incredible potential to build something so powerful because you can reply to everyone at that point. You know, now that my email list is over 100,000, now that I have millions of downloads, like all these things, it's harder to do. It is just, it's literally, I calculated it the other day. And I was like, if I replied to every DM and every email, I wouldn't shower, I wouldn't see my kids, I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't even get to work because that's just come in. But what I do every single day, and my audience can feel it, is I do show up a little bit every day. I will have maybe 15 or 20 moments where I DM people back and forth. I will write all of my Instagram posts myself. I will be in my stories. I will write myself an email that goes out to my audience. I don't have funnels. I don't have anything automated. And I think that those little bits, it starts to seep through that like, oh, there's something very genuine. And then I do have now, for years, I was just like you. It was just a one-man band. But now I have a couple other amazing women who can say like, oh, I'm on Cathy's team. Get you that link. I can do, you know, and help me a little bit. But I think even the little bits that we can show up and have that genuine interaction a little bit, it becomes evident. You can feel it. Can't you feel when someone's writing their own posts or DMs? Yeah. Then I can feel it right away. And I just like, no one's here. Like you can just feel anything lacking.
It's so true. So true. And I think what you said, like, it's easier when you've got a small audience because you can be so much more intimate with them. So
yeah.
It's really a benefit.
So speaking of connecting, before we hop off, everybody who's here, I'm curious, tell me, what's your thing that you would want to build? Do you want to build a membership? Do you want to sell stuff that you knit? Do you want to be starting a podcast? I want to know, what do you want to do this year? Like, what would be such an expansive, fun thing to do? Tell us in the chat.
I wish I could see the chat, but I can't because I just see this thing that says request to be in this live video. That's the only thing.
Well, it's really, really nice what people have said. And since now that I know you can't see it, I'll tell you that somebody here was saying that they were reading your book and loving it.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Now I'm like scrolling back. People are saying, this is so generous of you. People were saying hi from the UK. You.
Oh, hi.
What else you missed? But a lot of beautiful, so inspiring. People love this, made my day. So yeah, I wish I'd seen that, but okay. So people are saying now, I've read Carrie's book, love, starting a female empowerment entrepreneur membership podcast, totally inspired by Carrie. Hi from Germany, a member for women. I want to grow up helping creatives with business. Hi from Athens, considering a course about how to design a memorial garden. Podcast and YouTube. I want to have a membership to help adult dancers break into their artistry and find the ballet world. Membership. I want to grow my bath and body business. So great, you guys.
That's amazing.
Really great. So awesome. And okay, last question for everybody, since Carrie said it at the beginning. Your word for 2021, Carrie, is that right?
Expansive, yeah.
So everybody else, tell us, what's your word for 2020? My word was like the idea of like simplify to amplify, right? So I have more time to talk to God, to take a walk, to read a book, to fill up, so that whatever I am doing, I can do it with more depth. The words are space, alignment, co-create, rooted, sanctuary, bloom, visibility, generosity, abundance, courage, grow, joy, feel it and share it, sovereignty, consistency, fearless AF, love it, yes. Courage again, 2021 word, self-love, divinity. I wonder, Carrie, if since this word came, courage, if you were going to have courage this year, if you were going to have a little bit more courage in one way or another, what would that look like for you?
Ooh. It would look like completely redefining my membership and like having the guts to do that, having the courage to do that. It would be launching a higher tier membership. That would be courageous of me. And also making like personal investments, like actually going for it with like for example, we just saw a holiday home that we really wanted to buy. So like doing that would be like a step to be like courageous in like doing it, because of like how it could make our lives better and more joyful. So yeah, those are 3 little ways I could be more courageous and will be more courageous this year. I
love that so much. I love that. And we've had that conversation about a year ago that you were going to revamp things a little. And I think you're already on your way.
I know. I've got a lot in the pipeline now, and I'm so excited. I'm just ready for it. I just feel ready.
So courage for me, this is like a big thing to say, like scary to like say these things out loud. But I feel like I need to take my seat at the table in a bigger way. And I'm such a pleaser, a recovering codependent. Like, my mom was suffering from depression and suicidal most of my life. My dad left when I was a kid. I was kind of taking care of my parents more than they were able to take care of her. And so I carry a lot for people. And in order for me to really do the work I know I'm being called to do, I need to open the doors, wider, which means not being able to do the one-to-one, right? Which I love doing. I love putting people in a hot seat. But we're at a place now where the last time we did Made to Do, we had over 500 people, and it was fire. It was amazing. And now, we had this conversation about how like only fit 1,000 people in a Zoom meeting. and there's more than 1,000 people that want to be in it this round. And do you know that that was so hard for me to say yes to, when it was like just literally the universe like giving me this, it was like, no, this is what the world is asking from you. And it was my sense of like, no, like it's hard for me to receive without holding, without fully. And so courage would look like knowing and trusting that people will get what they need, even if I'm not able to, talk to them like right now. We're able to do some pretty cool stuff right now. And I think about the books I read. Oprah, like, has Oprah sat down with me one time? And all these people able to touch and serve at that level because they were willing to open themselves up to receive more and not hold in the same way, but to hold the resonance, right? It's just to put out a frequency. So I'm kind of shifting into like taking on that sort of bigger role. And I've always looked up to Gabby Bernstein and Brene Brown and all of those people. And, in order to take your seat and do this bigger thing, like you have to be willing to receive. And I think we all feel on some level that in order to receive, we have to earn it. We have to. Thank you. It's so funny you just said talk show, because that's totally like a dream of mine. I'm actually having a conversation today with somebody about doing a TV show, and it's just like coming to me. It's like crazy. It's just like it keeps coming back, and we'll see. But I think I've always had this thought in my head that like if you really have success at that level, somehow maybe you'll lose yourself, or maybe you will, I don't know what, but there's definitely, I think we all, every level, there's a new devil, right? There's this new like limit. So I'm learning to let that go, and we'll see. We'll see. In any case, this was really fun. Carrie, yesterday, she's like, what do you think you talk about? And I was like, we'll just talk. It'll be good. Oh, good. So, thank you, Carrie, for this conversation. So much fun, and I love all of you. And I'm doing daily podcasts now as well at Don't Keep Your Day Job, little 5-10 minute bites, so you can check that out. This was so fun. You guys,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you loved this week's episode of the She Means Business show. If you want more help and support to build a wildly successful business, then join hundreds of thousands of women and become an FEA insider. You'll get access to some of our amazing freebies, to our bonuses, to our giveaways, to so much good stuff. Head over to femaleentrepreneurassociation.com/insider to get all of the goodness. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business show.